Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Morning Huddle for Friday, April 8th of 2022. Today, I'm very excited because we have a very special Morning Huddle featured guest. Her name is Marta Viciedo. She is the founding partner and strategy director of the Urban Impact Lab. Marta is a Miami-based urbanist and a social impact entrepreneur. Marta co-founded Urban Impact Lab, a civic innovation and placemaking firm in Miami that introduces and applies innovation-based solutions to civic and urban challenges. Marta leads the UI Lab team in producing place-based programs, designing and developing creative placemaking projects, and engaging in public policy development, and incubating solutions-oriented initiatives and organizations. Marta also has served on several boards, including the Transit Alliance Miami and the Miami Downtown Development Authority, and is a graduate of the Miami Foundation's Miami Fellows Program. For class number 9, Marta holds a master's in urban and regional planning and has a background in biology and scientific research. She lives in downtown Miami with her husband and 2 daughters. Through her various roles, Marta is committed to Miami's healthy, resilient, and prosperous development. Please help me welcome Marta Viciedo to the Morning Huddle.
Good morning, all. It's a pleasure to be here. And Danilo, you're amazing. It's so wonderful to be here with you and look at everything that you've built. You're really just such an inspiration. We're lucky to have you at the county where you are.
Thank you so much, Marta. Coming from you, that is tremendously high praise. And you know what? The feeling is 100% mutual. So before we say anything, I just want to say and express to you just how grateful I am for you, Marta, for Alexina, for the team at Access Helps. You guys really have hit not a home run, a grand slam home run with Access Helps. Such a vital tool that we're going to talk about now, but you made it so easy. It's built with such love and empathy. It's apparent. And so I am so impressed. And you know, I'm one of the biggest fans of everything you're doing at Access Helps. And I'm so glad that we're partnering and working together to take it to another level. So
are we. We're thrilled to be working with you, and always so wonderful to hear your input and continue making the product, making Access better, because that's it's not done. It'll never be done. It'll just continue to evolve to serve our community.
Fantastic, Marta. So let's start at the beginning, because I'm curious about reading your introduction, how you went from biology and science, right, to urban planning. Tell us a little bit before we get into the nuts and bolts of Access Helps. I'm always curious to ask leaders why they do the work they do, right?
So because it's Friday and because this is such a great group of people, and really I'm hoping that everybody on this call, for the purposes of our conversation today, I really just want to come across as an entrepreneur, like somebody that has worked hard to build a business in Miami-Dade County, not an easy undertaking. And so, you know, I just ask me questions or, you know, anything that you need to know or you would like to know. I'm here for it. But how I got here is maybe funny. I've always been sort of a nerd. Like it's true. I love all sorts of things. I love data. I love science. My father was very adamant that I become a business person, and I was very adamant that no, I'm a first generation American. My parents are immigrants. And as many of you that might be immigrants, might have immigrant families or know, you know, immigrant families tend to just hustle hard when they arrive in a new country. And my parents certainly did. My dad had like 3 or 4 side hustles in addition to his full-time job. So he saw the pathway for me as being something of business, getting into business. And of course, as a rebellious teenager, I was like, absolutely not, never, ever, ever will I ever go into business. That's not my thing. But over time, I was a marine biologist in particular. I worked in a lab right here at FIU. So I did all those things, and I wanted to advance. I wanted to get another degree. And the funniest thing was, like, I saw the people at that master's level. They had biologists that had received a master's or a doctorate, and they were working in labs and they were writing proposals all the time. Like that's what they were doing, they weren't in the field, they weren't doing the field work that I love. They were writing proposals. I'm like, I'm never going to go get a biology degree, a master's degree, because I'm just going to end up looking for money all the time, because I just didn't know any better. So I went and got a master's degree in urban planning, realized that urban planning as a profession, like at a municipal, like working at a city, was probably not aligned with my personality. And one thing led to another, and I started taking little contracts that turned into a business. And now I spend a lot of time writing proposals and writing, looking for money and looking for investors, looking for partners, writing. So I end up doing the thing that I was afraid of, but such is life, right? That's like kind of the paths that life pushes you into. So that's essentially how I got here.
I guess the takeaway is never say never.
Never. Well, never say never, and never to make decisions based on fear. Fear is always going to sort of lie to you. And there's so many things to be afraid of, so that's really easier said than done. But never make decisions based on fear. Just follow your passion.
Well, Marta, that's great advice. Thank you for sharing that backstory. And I want to remind everybody we're having a conversation with Marta Viciero of the Urban Impact Lab and Access Helps. And if you have a question or comment, please raise your hand. I'll pass you the mic. Tell us a little bit more about this concept of being an urbanist, Marta, and the work that Urban Impact Lab does. Sure,
absolutely. So I got my master's degree in urban planning when I was in my 30s. And it was one of those things that I arrived at. I didn't really know what urban planning was. I know it loosely, right? Like a government thing. Somebody in government takes care of these things. So I essentially went into a program that I didn't really fully know I had begun. I found it because I took an aptitude test. And that was one of the things that came. There was some stuff that came back that I wasn't interested in. And this was something I was in. I was like, okay, I'm willing to explore. And what happened was, in the first few months of my program, my master's program, I realized I was actually, to be honest, dumbfounded by all the things that I thought I should have known as a citizen of a city, of a resident of a city. I didn't know. I just didn't understand how things function and how decisions were made. I didn't realize the role that residents play. And I was really surprised that I didn't know so many things. So a lot of what we created through Urban Impact Lab was essentially a business that has a social mission. That's why when you read the bio, it's a social impact firm. It has a social mission, meaning we're not really only looking, like our business model isn't only focused on the bottom line of driving revenue and profit. It is a double bottom line of, obviously we have to be profitable because we have to be sustainable and succeed, but we also measure our progress by the impact that we're having, by how much good we can do. And so we started Urban Impact Lab because we thought, well, people can have a much larger role in shaping the community that they live in, much more than I had appreciated up to that point. And we wanted to find a mechanism to do that. I mean, quite simply, we wanted to find a way to build a business that helped our residents contribute more meaningfully to our city, for our city to listen, and our county as well, to listen and to be better connected with its residents. We've done that through a number of different projects, hitting a ton of topics, but that's what's at the heart of it. It's helping places be better connected with people, and people be better connected with the place they live in. One of the things, and just add real quick, one of the things that's like startling, some of you may have like seen these headlines a couple of years ago, that life expectancy can be tied, some scientific study can be tied to the zip code that you live in, which means that the place that you live in has an outsized impact on your life, on your quality of life, on the future that you and your children may have. And we just feel that everybody deserves to have a thriving, prosperous future and have access to every opportunity. And so we really care deeply about that. So everything that we do is shaped around that.
A question about that, because sometimes I hear not only from small business owners, but from just regular citizens, people, residents, etc., where we feel sometimes that we're powerless to make a change, to drive change that we see is so obviously needed. You said that you were shocked at how many things you should have known as a resident and a citizen of where you're living, but you didn't know. Can you speak to that point, that sometimes we feel like we're powerless or don't have that agency to make change happen?
And yes, and I will say, I will caveat it, like it is, it's kind of like, it's funny to answer that question in this moment in time where we're coming out of a pandemic. Hopefully we're like fully for real this time, coming completely out of this pandemic. And we have as a whole, as a society, faced so many challenges to our way of life in the recent couple of years. So it can feel overwhelming right now in this moment in time to deal with like what are typical problems, much less like what pressing problems of our time. But I think some of the things that I sort of encountered were, I really didn't understand some of the basics. I didn't understand at all how decisions were made. I really wasn't very involved in, I knew voting was important, so I would like sort of vote whenever, if it was convenient to me. But I really wasn't, I really wasn't paying attention to all the things that were going on. And that's not to say that I feel that our residents, that everybody on this call and everybody that lives with like in our community needs to be paying attention to everything. That I think is remarkable. That's like a huge undertaking. Everything is too many things. But there are, each one of us, I would argue, have like a particular passion or something that we feel deeply about. It can be making sure, it can be health. It could be housing. We really care about, maybe we really care about kids. I happen to really care about transportation. It's one of the topics that I got involved in very much. Ended up starting a nonprofit specifically for transportation. I think that when you start opening the door to like an issue and trying to kind of figure out where in your community you can help make that particular issue that speaks to your heart, make it just a little bit better, then slowly you begin to meet people, you begin to hear more, you begin to, maybe it's women's issues. I mean, there's so many different places that can be entry points that serve as great education. They serve as amazing networking opportunities where you might be coming in to talk about your passion for children's education, and then you end up with a bunch of, like a significant network for your business. Not to do that. I mean, I don't want to, I'm not suggesting that it should be like that kind of transactional relationship. But getting involved in those issues will help you understand what things you can do. And then you'll get all these kind of interesting ideas of even how you can position your business to help address those issues. Maybe it's like through some charitable thing that you do once a year, or there's all these different ways that you can become more and more engaged in the issues that you care about. And then ultimately the goal is a stronger, healthier community for everybody. And we all sort of play our part.
And it's up to all of us, right? So that's an important point. I want to remind everybody we're talking to Marta Viciedo, the Executive Director of the Urban Impact Lab, and Access Helps as well. And remember, this is a conversation. This is your morning huddle. So if you have something to say that you want to add or ask a question, please raise your hand and I will pass you the mic. Let's get into Access Helps, Marta.
Sure.
So just an amazing tool. Can you take us to the very beginning of why Urban Impact Lab, you and your team decided to create this tool?
Absolutely. I probably don't need to replay what was going on in our community a couple of years ago, sort of March, April as 2020, as we were beginning to learn that COVID was definitely a thing in South Florida. Shutdowns were going to happen. And I imagine, I don't want to assume, but I imagine several of you on this call probably were in the same position I was. I have a business. Every project, every activity, everything that we had scheduled that was going to start in a week or in 2 months, everything got canceled. Contracts got terminated, understandably. And so we were in this position where the bottom fell out. And we have a team, not sure if we were going to be able to pay their salaries, really not sure if we were going to, what was going to happen. So that moment of uncertainty was pretty severe. We had a couple of partnerships within the community, just organizations we had worked with in the past that reached out and said, we know that this is going to be a huge financial crisis. It's going to be devastating for our community. Can you help? Can you help create something? Of course, we're really good. One of the things that we're really good at is getting out into the community and talking to people or doing events, like all sorts of different things around community engagement and outreach. And we couldn't get out into the community and do anything because we were in lockdown. We couldn't go door to door, which ordinarily we would have done. So we decided, obviously, that something online was the right thing to build. And so we built it. We had a tiny little bit of seed money, and they said, build something, and we built something in 2 weeks. And it's obviously evolved very much since then. But the thought that went into it was, we had already, because we were kind of in the same boat everybody else was, we had already started looking like, what do we do? Where are the resources? Like, we heard there was money coming down from here, there's this, that, or the other. So we started looking, and what we would encounter was websites that were incredibly well-meaning, but you'd get a list, a web page, or sometimes a PDF. I mean, I was even sent links to like Excel sheets. There were just a list of links. The links could have gone dormant, maybe they didn't work anymore, the program had closed. I mean, it was a wrong link. And we could not imagine putting something together that the rest of our residents, like everybody else in our community, would have to, in this moment of crisis, have to take on this additional burden to essentially decipher, translate, figure out, hunt down all the resources that were coming to them. That they could potentially take advantage of. So we decided to look at it as a user, not as like the organization trying to get information out, which we were, but we really cared about how the user was going to navigate, what could make it as easy as possible for them to get the help they needed in a moment of crisis. And maybe they were losing their jobs and they didn't know how they were going to pay the rent next month. So we took that very much into account, and we created Access, which was geared at we went through every application. We sort of digested all that information, the PPP programs, the SBA, EIDL programs. We took it all in and then broke it down so that we could give anybody that was coming to the site a 101 on, does this program match for you? Here's the correct link. We would update it on a weekly basis, and sometimes sooner, sometimes more frequently. And we just tried to make sure that everything was up to date, was super easy. The language was super simple. We made phone calls to make sure when we had questions, how does somebody navigate if they have this situation or that situation? We even stood up a phone line for rent relief for a short time. But that was really the heart behind it. And then within a couple of months, we had the incredible good fortune of meeting Alexina Prather, who is on the phone call as well today, and she is the program manager for Access. And so together we have been able to continue building this and really taking on a clearer focus to help our small business community. We learned a lot about our small business community needs. I want to say that, but I also want to say we still also have a ton more to learn, because we want to just make sure that this is something that can help every single human being on this phone call and everybody else that that needs help, guidance. You need financing, you need grants, you need to understand the ins and outs of building a business that can sustain you and your family and help you thrive.
Marta, there's so much to unpack there in terms of all the great things that you did, the way you pivoted during a moment of uncertainty and crisis. That was something that was very challenging at that time because your business model went out the window with COVID. And so you found another way to add value, and it's been an amazing success. And also, the importance of, you said something that's powerful and that we often forget, and that is put the user in the center. So many tools, so many things, services, products that we create, often they're from the perspective of the business owner, like myself. But when do we take the time to really think of what the transaction looks like from the perspective of the end user? I think that's powerful. Do you want to add a little bit more about that?
I think, absolutely. I think the thing is, like, it's really easy to get in our own heads, because we either know what we're doing, we know the business, or we've had a certain set of experiences that we're trying to sort of communicate, use that as our basis for communication, or sharing out to people what it is that we do. One of the things that has helped us tremendously is it's not an easy undertaking to be user focused, because we all have like these biases and our, just kind of, we have our own little blinders based on how we've experienced life. So we have taken the extra step of constantly either we'll work with business owners directly. We've created focus groups. We have even hired, like a small firm that also focuses on the user experience to help us think through. So we'll take all of these extra steps to make sure that what we think will work will actually work. And so we'll talk to small business owners, and if Alexina wants to jump in and add some details around this, we've been doing this a lot lately, another round of it. We'll talk to business owners, we'll get their, if they need to go out and find a loan, forget about access for a second. If they need to go out and find a loan, what are their pain points? What are their fears? What are they hearing? What are they encountering? And how can we help address some of those things so it's less confusing, so it's less overwhelming, and so you can get the help you need more directly. And then we can then transition that into how we position information on access. So that's a little bit of like kind of how we do it, and the why we do it is because then we're just, then what do we, our everything about what we do is to make sure that we can get the resources out. We can help everybody that has resources get them to the people that need it the most. So we just feel like it's required basically for us to do our job.
Fantastic. And I'm going to go ahead and take the opportunity to share the screen and show them the tool so they can visualize it and if Alexina wants to jump in, please feel free. Alexina, did you want to say something about that amazing end user experience that you've created that makes this tool so easy and solve so many problems for small business owners?
It's an airplane. Sorry, one moment. I would just add that echoing everything Marta's been saying, if I'm going to drop my email in the chat, but if anyone ever wants to, speak with us about the site or about something external, if they've had an experience local to Miami about either a loan or a grant or just an experience in general, we do a lot of like outbound outreach to small business owners, but we'd love to hear from you as well. So if there's ever anything you want to talk about in terms of your needs or your kind of pain points or challenges, or even some of your wins and successes, we'd love to highlight those as well. But it's really an open door here in terms of communication, and something we're always trying to just work on, whether it's through the site or it's through sharing your stories. So that's what I wanted to add on that, but I'll add my email so you all have it.
Fantastic. And Alexina, I wanted to ask you one quick thing, and then we're going to go to Ms. Jelena, who has a question or has a comment. The access update, what is that?
Yeah, so this is a great resource because, as Marta was saying, we update this website on almost a daily basis at this point, definitely weekly. We're in there every day, adding new programs, archiving old programs, updating deadlines. So this is an email version of everything on the website. So it's kind of the top priority programs. It comes straight to your inbox. You can choose what type of information you want, whether it's geared more towards individuals and families or small business owners. So it's just a great way for our users to not have to always come back to the site on their own, but we're coming into your inbox, we're telling you what's new, we're sharing those updates with you all. And then I would just add on top of that, our Twitter and our Instagram are our most active social media accounts. So we're also posting on there regularly, because a lot of these opportunities, come and go. So if you're not aware of it, things like being connected with the morning huddle, opportunities like this where people are just sharing are so important. But that's a great thing to sign up for, and it'll come straight into your inbox.
Fantastic. So, it's that's some homework for everybody, guys. Go to the website, sign up for the updates, follow them on Instagram and Twitter, Alexina, right? And because one of the things I love about the update is that you remind us when a deadline is approaching to apply for funding. I think that's a tremendous help, because we all know we're doing, a million things all at once and we forget. And so having that update that I can look forward to every week to get that information, I think is just glorious, honestly. So thank you for that. And you're amazing, Alexina. Thank you for all the hard work that you've put into Access. Thank you. We're all very grateful. Without further ado, Ms. Jelena, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I just kind of want to shine some light on, well, by the way, like Alexina and you guys built this an amazing app for grants and funds, but unfortunately I'm not a Miami local, but I love Miami. I was there for Hack Week last time in January, and I created this initiative where I basically fly in underrepresented POC talent to Miami to grow the tech scene. And I managed to sponsor four people either POC or women or people from the LGBTQ community to go to Miami. And our cohort last January was amazing. Some people managed to raise 3 million and build startups in Miami. And we're doing the same thing for Tech Week. I'm just wondering, so, because like right now I'm struggling trying to raise funds to sponsor our current cohort right now. Right now I don't have any funds. And I was just wondering, like, do you guys have any tips or suggestions, or I guess like if you guys know anybody that could help out a non-for-profit organization to fly these amazing, this amazing talent, this amazing pool of talent to go to Miami. I've got students from Harvard, future students of Stanford, and they're all people of color. They're all either part of the LGBTQ community or women or POC communities.
Jelena, if maybe we could connect offline. Just, you mentioned that it's a nonprofit. We are very connected with organizations like the Miami Foundation, and there's a couple of other organizations like Air Ventures that comes to mind that might be a nice fit. I'd have to kind of get a sense of where you have connected with existing organizations in the past, just to see if there's some new ones that we can help you with. But I'd be happy. I'll drop my contact information in the chat in just a sec, and then maybe we can connect a little bit later this afternoon.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
Jelena, thank you so much for the question. And also, if I can be of any assistance, I'm in the office of Mayor Daniela Question. So please, it's the danilo.vargas@miamidade.gov. So please reach out to me, and if there's anything I can do. I would like to understand a little more about what you're trying to do, but I'm sure that we can assist in some way.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Where are you calling from? Where are you joining us from?
I'm coming from Canada. I would love to move to Miami one day. It was unfortunate that my parents decided to immigrate to Canada rather than Miami. But honestly, Miami is a dear, dear, dear city to my heart. I love it. I love the people. I love the culture, and I love the tech scene over there. And I would one day love to move. I'm currently 19. So running a non-for-profit and like sending, underprivileged kids like me to go to Miami to build out the tech scene is very, very daunting. I think I spent like the past month reaching out to people nonstop, but it was unfortunate that I didn't get any like responses. But yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Well, my pleasure. And
because
congratulations, you're a first Canadian on the Morning Huddle.
so much. You have no idea how much this means to me.
Oh, thank you, Jelena. And yes, please reach out. We're here for each other, and we'll do everything we can to assist you. Thank you for your initiative and for caring. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, Marta, about the impact, because now we saw, everybody in the huddle saw just the value of having one website with reminders, with social media updates, where you can monitor not only, you know, the funding opportunities so that you can take that capital and grow your dream, but also other resources and other things like for yourself and for your families, because it's not just related to business. Let's talk a little bit about the impact that Access Helps has had, Marta, in the short time that it's been around.
So yes, and let me touch on that real quick. When we started Access, it was kind of the mandate that we were given was there is lots of money coming down from the federal government, from the state government, from the county government, from the city government, all these places we're going to bring in all these. I remember this is back 2020. And the mandate was make sure, do something, whatever you're going to do, but make sure that our community can retain as many dollars as possible. Because in the past, in like previous either disasters like a hurricane or just, you know, some sort of financial situation, when there has been money that's come down, it's been hit or miss, and the people that need it the most haven't necessarily benefited the most or at all. And so that was our mandate, and that's why when you go to Access, or when Danila was showing his screen, you'll see small businesses, small business owners, but also resources for individuals and families. Because when we started out, we were specifically looking at both. We have over time sort of begun to, really build out the small business side, because that's the side that's sort of larger in our community over time. And it's the cohort, like kind of group of people that we can help. But on the individual side, small businesses are still individuals in our community. They still have families. And given this pandemic and everything we've been through, many of our small business owners had trouble paying their rent, or they've had trouble with utilities, or maybe they needed help with food. So regardless of where Access goes and how much the small business side grows, we will always maintain this individual side, at least to provide assistance and some idea of the resources that are available, so that you can help your families, if families that are close to you, or if you need a little extra help yourself as life takes its turns. So that side will always be something that we will maintain. And here, it's still one of our most frequented pages, the rental assistance for anybody that lives in Miami-Dade County and is renting an apartment or a home. That's one of the busiest pages on our site. But there's a bevy of different resources depending on where you live. If you live in the city of Hialeah versus the city of Miami or Miami Beach. So you can take a look. And if you would scroll to the top 1 second, Danilo, I just want to point out one thing. We're working on this because we have the sense that this isn't a super crystal clear, but do you see where it says filter programs? We're going to make this just a little bit more obvious. If you click on that, you can select conditions that are specific to you. Maybe it isn't rent help that you need. Maybe it's help with your mortgage. Maybe it's help just specifically on utilities. But if you select any one of them, it'll filter down the options that are most specific to your circumstance. And you can find a filter like this on every page. So on the small business pages, most every page. There's a couple that we're adding some additional filters, but you can find these programs, right? Exactly. And you can sort of filter down by different, if you're looking for specific types of grants, you can sort of filter down if you're a minority-owned business or a woman-owned business, both. You can select those little toggles and get resources that are more targeted to your specific experience. I fear that I may not have answered your initial question.
I think you covered, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and about the impact, let's revisit it because Miami-Dade County hit a home run when it came to ERAP funds. Can you tell the story from your perspective?
Sure. So for anybody that's not familiar, ERAP is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. That's one of the first resources hit on the rental assistance page. And that's managed, provided by Miami-Dade County's Department of Public Housing and Community Development, PHCD for short. Every community, or virtually every community across the United States, received emergency rental assistance dollars. You also may be familiar with the evictions moratorium, which was also, it's extended, it circulated, I guess, or was in effect from 2020 to early 2022, I believe it ended very recently, or fairly recently. But the Emergency Rental Assistance Program in Miami-Dade County, we had the very good fortune of working directly with PHCD on outreach. That's one of those instances where we actually stood up a phone line so that people could call in when that program came online. But because of the outreach,
just turn it down a little bit.
Because of the outreach and because of our partnerships with organizations like Miami Homes for All and Miami-Dade County, Miami-Dade County ended up being one of the very few counties across the entire United States that got all of its rental assistance dollars out. Now, that's not to say that there are communities across the United States that, like, 70% of communities across the United States didn't have rental assistance needs. Like, oh, everybody was paying their rent on time and they didn't have any needs to pay rent. It's just that it's pretty hard to get information out to residents, and a lot of communities struggled with that. But Miami-Dade County not only got all of its dollars out, because it got all of its dollars out, then it became eligible to receive even more money from the federal government to continue its rental assistance program. So that was one of those instances. I don't think that we could claim that it was all access, and we wouldn't, but it was part of our involvement in a couple of other organizations like Miami Homes for All and Miami-Dade County, that, and the mayor, who really understood what was needed and got out there and, ensured that these dollars were going to be deployed. So we're really grateful to have been a partner in that. And it's an amazing outcome where so many other communities struggled.
I love that story, Marta, because it was a team effort. And I can tell you from the mayor's office, the mayor was, let's go, let's go, let's go. People need assistance. Let's mobilize. Let's do what we have to do. Let's work with our partners. It was just one of those feel-good stories. We performed. Like you said, the county blew out most of the counties in the whole United States. And then we have additional funding because we were so efficient. And access was a big part of it. So I think that that's an amazing testament to what happens when we can work as a community, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will mention just on that, one of the things that we built with Access very early days, as we were launching it, is we built something that we now call our A-Team. The A-Team is a set of organizations. This is part of the reason that we can be so effective in our outreach. The A-Team is a set of organizations within our community that we work closely with. They're organizations like Branches, like Catalyst, Hispanic Unity. There's a few of, I think we're up to 9 now. Alexina could provide all of them, or she can drop the link. But either way, they are also partners, right? So every time that we have programs that are coming out, or immediate deadlines, or some sort of emergency, we're sending information out to them. And they are sending us information in return. And part of that, the purpose with that was, we're already digesting so much information. We don't think that, for instance, the organization like Saint La that serves in North Miami and serves all of Miami-Dade County, Saint La doesn't need to be sitting there understanding the ins and outs of the ERAP program. If we're already doing it, we can help them, and then we can help them help their clients best. So that's part of also the ability to get all of these resources out, is an amazing group of committed community organizations that are that have been working with us since day one.
Fantastic. And I want to remind everybody, we're having a conversation with Marta Viciedo, the Executive Director of Urban Impact Lab and Access Helps creator. And I want to just, raise your hands like Danny. I'll go to you in a second, Danny. But I wanted to ask you, Marta, one other big component of the impact that Access has had, which is the amount of funding that has been facilitated, right, through the Rise Miami-Dade and all the other funding that you connect folks to. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, so Rise is another interesting example. Many of you might be familiar with it. Rise was a small business. It was actually really a remarkable program, very innovative, and was stood up immediately, like just in a blink of an eye. Rise was a small business revolving loan fund. It was a partnership between Miami-Dade County, a few different organizations specifically called CDFIs, they're Community Development Financial Institutions. For the purposes of this conversation, what you really want to know is that these are organizations in Miami-Dade County that specialize in providing small business loans to minority business owners. A lot of us don't know about them. I certainly didn't know a ton about them before when we got started. But there are organizations like Miami Bayside Foundation, Ascendus, BBIF. There's a few more, but they are great organizations that can help you get the funding that you need and can help you walk through. Like they will hold your hand, walk you through the process of applying for a small business loan, especially if you haven't been successful in getting a loan somewhere like a traditional bank. So through that, so Rise is another example where that was, I'm forgetting the original pot of money. I want to say it's 35 million. We partnered with Miami-Dade County and Rise. It was being administered with the Dade County Federal Credit Union. And we got every single one of those dollars out. Every single last penny of those dollars went out to small business owners. And again, just like the rental assistance, that was unique within the country. Many places in the country did not get all of their small business dollars out. So that was an amazing opportunity for so many of us on a phone call. And it's a loan fund that will actually continue to exist in the coming years as the original fund is repaid. As a revolving loan fund, it will continue to exist. But when we're talking about how much money has been facilitated, I think we've tried to estimate it. There are so many programs that we listed. We probably, conservatively speaking, there's been at least $250 million of resources that we have listed and pointed to. I'd turn over to Lexi and see if that's what her opinion is. But we're probably talking about something like somewhere between $150 to $250 million that have come through Access over the last year and a half or so.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And again, like we aren't providing the funds directly. We are using that facilitator role. There's a lot of airplanes over this park, but we're always just trying to be that connector. So we are always trying to make you aware of the multiple opportunities that are available. So there's so many different channels of funding that you can learn about through Access Helps. It doesn't have to be just a CDFI or just a grant or a loan. There's a lot of different opportunities. So our goal is always to just promote them and figure out what makes the most sense for you at that time, for your business, for your needs. So Rise was really specific to kind of COVID relief and that time and that period. So it was really, really great for us to be involved and to find those businesses that would need it. But it's, that isn't always the need of a small business. So just finding kind of where you're at within the site, there's really opportunities for everyone.
That is remarkable. $250 million. That's incredible. Thank you so much for that information, Marta and Alex. I'm going to go now to Mr. Danny Felton, who's been waiting patiently. And Danny, how are you?
I'm great, Daniela. How are you doing?
Doing great. Greetings. You're coming to us from Miami Gardens.
Yes, I really wanted to give a shout out to Martha and her group, as well as Miami-Dade County, for the ARAP program, because it helped. Not only did it help tenants, but it also assisted landlords, because there were many landlords that were behind in receiving rents. And through this pandemic, it was really unclear as to how the tenants were going to catch up, whether when the moratorium was lifted. So having this particular program and the way that it was administered, in terms of getting the funds out, it was really a sort of a stopgap for evictions as it relates to making sure that landlords receive the funds that they were due, as well as making sure that the tenants had a roof over their head for their family. So I wanted to personally commend you all for how you administered this program.
Danny, Marta, did you want to comment?
No, I went back into my head, into my memory, and I completely forgot, to be honest, that there was that landlord component. And I remember having to create separate listings. Like, if you're a landlord, here is the type of help that you need, and here's how to navigate it. It was a little bit confusing at first, but you're spot on. I mean, the being able to keep people in their homes, there's nothing more fundamental, right? And it's really encouraging to hear from people that are out in the community that it has made a difference. And so we were just lucky to be in partnership with Miami-Dade County, and that Miami-Dade County was so willing to move quickly and be responsive.
I think I love it. That is remarkable. I'm going to go next to Ms. Rosemary, who has a question or a comment.
Hi, I'm Rosemary. I'm the founder of 305 Pink Pack. We provide services for women who are in cancer treatment locally, things like transportation, housekeeping, that'll get them to their treatment and allow them to recover. We use Access and Catalyst Miami as a great resource for our members who are experiencing loss of income because of their treatment, for help with rent, mortgages, utilities, and that type of thing. The one challenge that we face is people who rent but don't have a lease agreement. So where can we find funds for that? And two, how can we be listed as a resource on Access as well for people who are looking for support during their cancer treatment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Lexi has dropped her contact information in the chat. If not, we'll drop it again before the end. But please connect with us, and we'd be happy to discuss, being listed. The question about the lease agreements, that's a hard one. Almost every dollar that is particularly coming through government sources, because they have to report up to federal or state entities, they have to have some sort of documentation. And so I think that there are organizations like Catholic Charities that may be able to provide some support. I can go and look at that link real quick, and Lexi can jump in if there's anything else that comes to mind. So there are some private dollars that are potentially available, but definitely it's definitely a challenging situation when you're looking at anything that has ties to the government because of their reporting requirements. So I will take let me pull that link for Catholic Charities, and Alexina, if you have any other suggestions.
Yeah, I would just add, so right now, if it's the county program, Sant Law is providing support, application support in Haitian Creole, and Miami Workers Center is providing support in English and Spanish. There are some ways where you can provide proof of like funds being transferred, even if a formal lease isn't executed, but it's harder to do that than just like applying online. But we can definitely try and connect you with ERAP directly, or those programs who are providing the application assistance. So there are some workarounds, but as Marta was saying, it's not as like cut and dry of like this person can just apply unless there is a formal lease. There are a few different programs, so I'd love to have your email too, and we can connect on that. And as Marta was saying, we try and look for all the resources and list them on Access, but we love also requests of people wanting to be listed. So if there's ever a program that you run, or you at least know of, or you're a client or a user of that isn't on Access, we would love to list it. We love requests like that. So feel free to send them our way.
Excellent. Looks like we made a connection, Rosemary. So that's fantastic. And the chat box has all the contact info Please download it before the meeting's over so that you can have it. The other thing I wanted to mention, well, that we have just a few more minutes, so we have time for one more question or comment, and just raise your hand. I'll pass you the mic if anybody wants to chime in. But I wanted to ask you, Marta, you know, I had a bunch of questions that I want to ask you, and we always are short on time, right? Because we can go on for hours. But, you know, you mentioned at the beginning, I think we've made the case very clear that accesshelps.org is an amazing platform. Every small business owner should know about it. Guys, please spread the word with others and bless them with the understanding that they can go to that platform too and be helped by it. But in addition to that, you're an entrepreneur. You're an agent for social change. Marta, you do so many things. And we have small business owners and nonprofit leaders on the call. Looking forward at what's coming down the pike and the challenges that, you know, are consistent, what piece of advice would you like to share with them?
So very specifically on the small business end, you know, if I'm talking to a group of entrepreneurs, I think, so I have a kind of like a non-sexy answer, but one of the things that was problematic for, not only it was problematic for our business, it was problematic for other businesses, is if we weren't like on the financial end, if we didn't have all of our kind of ducks in a row, we weren't really able to jump on to programs like PPP or EIDL, or if we were, we didn't reap the maximum benefit. And so many times as business owners, you're moving so quickly because you have to. And you know, making sure that, you know, you have your cash flow documents and your profit and loss statements, and that becomes very overwhelming very quickly. But it's tragic when something happens and then we're not able to take full advantage of all of the things that we could, simply because like we don't have a document. You know, there's not you know, we don't, sometimes some businesses didn't have like a county business tax license, the county business tax receipt. They didn't have that, and so that delayed them getting a grant or loan fund. And so again, not a super sexy answer, but being able to make sure that we have our financial paperwork, our kind of the back of the house as organized as possible, as up to date as possible. And if that's not your thing, that's understandable. I joke with my accountant now that like I have an allergy to QuickBooks. It's just not like, you know, it's not a thing I love. But there are people in our community that are really good at managing financial documents, at helping you understand your profit and loss statements, and all these other pieces that are required for back of the house. Those things are, because we're a community that is somewhat vulnerable, but also extremely resilient, we're always going to prosper. We're always going to go on. You know, if this thing that we're doing right now isn't going to work, we're going to pivot. That's who we are as Miami-Dade County residents and entrepreneurs. But we also need to help ourselves to be ready to pivot as easily as possible, and making sure that we have relationships with organizations that can help us be prepared and help. You know, it could be an accountant, it could be it could be an organization that helps you just get all of that sort of work, that framework, you know, get your stuff ready on QuickBooks. They can help you get there. And I'm not advertising for QuickBooks. I should just say that it's just, you know, the thing that all accountants love to use. But it's really important. You know, a relationship with a bank representative, incredibly important. And so those are the things that I would really stress. And not only stress to small business owners, but even providers that are on the phone. You know, let's help businesses get really financially savvy, because it makes a huge difference when you have to solve, when you're facing a crisis. Man, it makes a big difference. We saw it across the board in Miami-Dade County.
Absolutely, and it's a theme that recurs in our huddles that we hear from folks. Let's get our economic house in order, right? So that we can be ready for anything that comes our way. I know we're out of time, but I want to ask you this one last question. What is your dream, Marta, for our community?
Um, thank you. That's a great question, Danilo. You know, for Miami-Dade County, again, we're an incredibly resilient community. We're going to make it work one way or another, as individuals and as community members. My dream for our community is that we really uplift each other and that we thrive. Thriving to have a community of incredibly diverse women. We have so many women-owned businesses. We have so many Black-owned businesses. We have Hispanic. I mean, we are the future of America. Miami, in particular, like we are the future of what this entire country will become over the next decade or two. And for us to thrive, for us to grow, to be able to be prosperous, to be able to make sure that we have a strong base for our children, and to be connected, connected with, you know, efforts that all the way from like the things that you're doing, Danilo, this is amazing, but connected to each other and helping each other grow, and just to be ready for anything that comes our way. And no matter where we look, we could look left, we could look right, there's somebody there to hold our hand and pull us up and just continue building each other.
Thank you so much for that answer. And guys, let's give her a big round of applause. Marta Viciero from Urban Impact Lab. This
Thank
has
you,
been an
Danilo.
amazing.
And a big applause to you and everything that you do.
Oh, my pleasure.
All
Thank
of
you
this is
so much.
possible because of you.
Thank you, Marta. It's an honor to work with amazing people like you, and you're among one of the most amazing there is, and Alex as well. So you guys are amazing. It's a mutual, you know, admiration club, I guess. Thank you again for your time, for making the time for the huddle, Marta. And we'll do it again maybe in a couple months. Please come back anytime. Lexi, anytime, you're welcome. And thank you again for all the great work you're doing on behalf of everybody in Miami-Dade County.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a fantastic weekend ahead.